Hello, Steve here, doing my best That Pedal Show impersonation. Video is to kind of demo and show off a little bit of this new guitar, Keith Holland Strat. It's a little noisy here. We'll turn this off for a minute. This is Keith Holland is a local repairman luthier. I first met about 20 years ago when he, at the advice of my friend John Wiedemeyer, refretted my 335 with this mixed fret job that he got from Larry Carlton, where there's 6100s and then 6105s from the 12th fret up. And I've had several of my guitars done that way ever since. In fact, if you go and look up on the YouTube John Wiedemeyer with the Strat, you'll see him playing a white Keith Holland Strat that he got 5 or 6 years ago. And that guitar has a 59 humbucker in it. Very similar to the Strat that I've been playing for about 10 years. This is just a Fender Ultra. Right now it has Sir Landau's and a 59 humbucker, but compared to the Holland that was made for John, this thing sounded like it had a blanket over it. So this winter I decided to break down and order one for myself. This one, originally when I ordered it, had a 59 here in the bridge, but because these pickups are very vintage and bright, and we'll get to those in a second, it just didn't blend very well with the humbucker. So I got a matching conventional bridge and new scratch plate and so forth, and rewired it to put all this stuff in. So the amps that I'm running here are divided by 13 JRT 13 9. It's right now on the 9 6v6 settings, and a Deluxe Reverb that I rebuilt with Allen Accomplice transformers in it. And the after I've tried a number of speakers in here, this has a Celestion G12H Heritage in it, which oddly enough is what the divided by 13 came from the factory with. So they're both running the same thing. So here's what the guitar sounds like clean. Neck pickup. These pickups were made for me by a buddy of mine named Dave Chilisvili. They're called Chilltone pickups. These are the Blues Royales, and they're very beautiful ringing top kind of tone on these things. They're extremely dynamic when you play it softly. But if you hit it a little harder, it gets much, much brighter. So you can really work the tone of these. I've wired this up with what's referred to as the Scott Henderson wiring, whereas in the conventional each pickup, there's the tone control is here, and I'm running a 022 microfarad oil and paper on this. But when you have it in the 2 and 4, or the so-called quack positions, the tone controls are inactive, so it doesn't lose as much volume, and you can roll the tones down when you're on one of the conventional pickups, and then when you go to the quack, it's got all the sharpness right there. So that's number 4. This is it's number 3, which I hardly ever use, but then the number 2 with this. And then the full-on bridge. And then I've wired a pull pot into the master tones so that I can get this Telecaster kind of sound. Relatively handy for doing cover band work. Earlier I was at the beginning here playing through a Mad Professor Royal Blue overdrive, which adds a little bit of actually a little bit of top, but with a little bit of grit to it. It will really work off of however you're picking it. If I just turn the pick over to the side, Robin Ford, Nat Schofield kind of thing. And then turn it to the tip. It just, everything you do just jumps out with different tonalities. Stack a Zen drive on top of the Mad Professor and get that kind of very heavy. And then turn it down with the Mad Professor, and we can get that. I know that's supposed to be an F, but it's a little easier to play an E and rings out a bit more. I'm also using a Mad Professor Deep Blue delay, just set for a small slap. And then the amps aren't in a wet dry, but they are hooked up in the stereo outputs of a Hall of Fame, so that there's a little bit of a stereo spread to it. Keith does a wonderful job doing various levels of aging and relicking to the guitars. This is just basically lightly aged. The finish is checked, clear or very thin nitro lacquer finish. And color scheme I kind of got off of Mick Taylor's blue. I really love the look of that. Metalwork is slightly aged. The guitar has a roasted maple neck, which is really smooth, feels beautiful, has a kind of a 60s thin C shape to it, which is actually a little thinner than I was used to, but it's super comfortable. Again, this guitar also has 6100s up to the 12th fret and then 6105s further up, which just give you a little more room up at the top when you want to, like, you know, fool around up in here. Wait for the reverb tails, that's what they always say. I have no idea how much this hum is going to bother this video, but this is a tiny little room that I have everything, all my music instruments stuffed into. It's only like 8 feet by 15 feet, and it's jam full of drums and keyboards and guitars and my recording setup, and there's not a lot of space to let the sound dissipate. And I've got these up about as loud as I can, as loud as I'm comfortable with in this small a space. We'll fool around with a little harmonic tremolo. Supro pedal just has this wonderful sound to it.